Hey, Kyle Querec here, and today we go to Gotham to interview someone that could be Batman, not completely sure, but for sure, he is a great composer. He's the king of New York. It's Louis Robert King, and he's here today on Music Minded. Come on. All right, Louis, question number one. Was there a specific moment that you can remember where you discovered music, or was it something that was cumulative? Can you go back there and take us to it?
I feel in general it was cumulative. Um, you as a kid you kind of are trying out different things. I end up having, playing in band, different stuff, and I've always been someone who's been drawn to success. I don't have a lot of hobbies that I don't do well. I'm not one of those people that can do something really poorly and have a nice time. That just frustrates the hell out of me. So it was definitely one of those things where it's like, yeah, you pick up an instrument and you seem to be doing all right. You start learning about music theory and it's like, this is interesting. Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, I get that. And then you keep going on and going on. And then next thing you know, you're kind of like, well, I don't know what else I would do. Like, I'm not sure. These other things are interesting, but I really like doing this. And, I seem to have some level of talent. So, I more fell into it than anything.
This can happen, 10 years old, 14 years old. There was an opera singer, it happened when he's like 25, which is crazy, where you decided, regardless of age, I'm going to pursue this for the rest of my life. It sounds like it might have happened when you were 4, when you discovered it, but was there a moment when you decided I'm doing this full bore?
I mean, I don't have a great memory of childhood or teenage years, but clearly at some point I thought this was actually when I was a teenager, what I thought I was going to end up doing was being a music teacher. That's really where I thought I would end up. And I ran into somebody who had gone to Berkeley, who was a friend of a friend. And he was like, yeah, you should go to Berkeley for music education. You should go up there and, you need to learn that, and I was like, okay, I'll apply. That sounds like it sounds interesting. It's like, what does it hurt? So I apply, I get accepted, I get there, and it completely changes my worldview of what my future could be and couldn't be. I was a tenor saxophone player. I show up and I learned very quickly that I am not going to be a successful professional tenor saxophone player by any means. Way too many heavy hitters that were miles beyond me. But I had a lot of encouragement in arranging, orchestration, and composition. So it was like, okay, well, I'm here. So let's pivot and go in this direction. And that's kind of how the path got put in that direction.
Was there that first great gig where you just were flush with joy, where you're like, this is happening?
I think the first time I stood in front of a 45-piece group at a recording studio in New York, which I didn't know I was going to do. I was working in a music production house. It was a lot of branded content. Mm-hmm. I had orchestrated something. I'm in a limo with the creative director and the composer, and we're heading up to the session, and guy turns to the other one. He says, "Oh, you should conduct." And he was like, "Well, I can't conduct. I have to play piano." And he's like, "I've taken too many Valium. I can't do it." And then they turn and they look at me and they're like, "Well, why doesn't Lou do it? He orchestrated it. He could do it." And and at this point, this was months out of college. I had never been in front of a group. I've conducted in college, but it's very different.
Sure.
And they thrust me up in front, and it all went very well, and I was very much at home. And it was like, after that, it's like, okay, well, this would be nice to do this all the time.
Give me a hell gig. Can you give me a hell gig?
I don't know. It's hard to say. while you're in that wilderness
It's a
of
great.
the early days, it's tough.
Yeah.
You know, when you're on revision 15,
Oh.
it can be difficult. And you know, there were plenty of those over the years, but then at some point, you know, it clicks and you don't really have that in the same way. And you also hopefully have grown and improved as a composer, that you're writing better things, you're understanding what's going on better, and you're much better at understanding and communicating with people who really can't put things into musical terms, which is really part of the job. So I can't think of any one thing that comes to mind, like one experience, but those things, you know, they in the moment, they're tough. They're
I
definitely tough.
I was at I was probably mid-20s, and I was at a session in a music house in New York, and I will never forget. And listen, musicians are supposed to create music. Advertisers are supposed to learn about advertising. We need to come together and create something hopefully wonderful.
Mhm.
But there was a young lady who was an ad exec, and I'll never forget it. I was just an intern at the time, and she turned to the engineer and she said, "Do you have a sound that goes, shh?" Again, I think this is a question that makes most people cringe, but I just have to ask it because I want you to kind of receive it in any way. There's a million ways to respond to this. What does the future hold for music?
You know, I think it's really complicated, because on one hand, music has probably never been more popular and consumed by a greater percentage of the public than it ever has before. The problem is that all the income streams are completely fragmented, completely blown up. The model is, it doesn't look anything. It certainly isn't anything that favors the artist. This can't continue. What it looks like today, the picture of what it looks like today, can't continue. Music isn't something you pay for anymore,
Right.
which makes things complicated.
What would you say to a 22-year-old young buck, Louis Robert King, hitting the streets of New York City, but in 2021, take out what's going on with all the craziness in the world?
I think the most important thing you can do is have a network and make it grow and grow and grow and grow. I mean, if no one knows you exist, you're not going to have a successful career. And the only way that happens is either dumb luck or taking the time and making it happen. My career for a very long time was a lot of dumb luck. Met the right people, ran into one person, ran into another person, and one thing locked into another one. Uh, and then at some point, when I maybe wanted to do something differently, or those connections weren't as fruitful as they had been in the past, you know, then you find yourself in a position where you need to let people know you exist.
Your three favorite classical composers.
Okay.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Um, your three favorite film composers,
Okay.
and your three Desert Island albums. Because I know you're gonna have like the Smiths or something weird in there. You're gonna have all this like highbrow, and they're gonna have the Sex Pistols or something. So I'm curious.
Oh, okay. Well, let's see. Let's start with classical composers. That one I might be able to do pretty quickly.
All right.
Let's see. Stravinsky, Bartok, and then more modern. I could go John Adams, Elliot Goldenthal, one or the other. I would go in there.
Okay. Wow. You slipped in four, but I'm gonna let that pass. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
That's all.
All right. Three film composers. You kind of, and I know Elliot was a Juilliard guy, right? And I know he was a big, but you're going to consider him kind of a classical film both.
Yeah, I'm thinking of his classical works
Sure.
as much. I could throw him into favorite film composers, but for the sake of argument, I won't.
All right. So okay.
Since we've already kind of mentioned him.
All right.
Let's see. Number one, Jerry Goldsmith. Jerry's everything.
He's everything.
Jerry's everything.
The
Jerry
best.
handed me my diploma. Didn't do much, but you know,
Yeah. And
no talent was transferred in the passing.
Jerry Goldsmith and George Benson, right?
Yeah. And George Benson.
I remember shaking George Benson's hand with my hair, like it was hitting his hand. I remember this. He's probably looking at me going, "Oh, this guy, oh my God, what's happening?"
Oh no.
All right. All right. So Jerry Goldsmith, who's number two?
Jerry Goldsmith. Oh boy. Uh,
Starts with an E. I'm kidding.
uh, well, Deplot, right? I mean, he does incredible stuff.
Forgive me, man. I feel I'm just going to be honest. I don't know that name.
Oh, you do.
All right, okay.
It's spelled Desplat. He did Shape of Water, did Godzilla, he's doing
Okay.
some really wonderful stuff. And
Awesome.
I'm gonna throw a real curve to you, and I'm gonna have to look it up because I'm gonna pronounce his last name wrong, and I don't want to do that. Oh, you know what? You know who I'll throw in there? I'll throw you a real curveball. Anne Dudley.
Anne Dudley.
Anne Dudley is an English composer. She's not the first, not a well-known name, but she's done some incredible scores.
Fantastic.
And to be fair, you know, favorite, it's like it'll change. Like 3 weeks from now, Jerry won't, but everyone else will rotate.
Let's go to Desert Island albums. 3 of them, please.
Yeah, the impossible. But
yeah, I know.
I'll say Tom Waits, Swordfish Trombones.
Yeah.
I'll say Nick Cave, Henry's Dream.
Oh, wow.
And the third one's the tough one. Because you would think I would have a soul group or something like that, but I'm going to go with, you know, the Clash, London Calling. There's your, I can't tire of that album.
So you know what's very interesting about all your picks and a couple of film composers I wasn't aware of, but all your picks where there's something kind of visceral. Like obviously Stravinsky is very highbrow and the Clash are not, but there's something unbelievably unique and that demands that you accept them on what they're doing. So just the originality is huge.
Yeah, I'm very much attracted to that.
Out of food, sports, or travel, what would you pick?
Well, I'll say food.
Oh yeah, I know.
And you knew it was going to be food.
Yeah, and by the way, I know you love food, and I saw you also love wine.
Oh yeah.
Somehow, some way, you have to own a vineyard with the name Louis Robert King Vineyards. Come on, man.
Estate Cuvée.
You're going to go out to a session 3 Fridays in a row. You just did some great music. You're feeling great. Mm-hmm. What 3 places, but what 3 meals are you going to have with all those musicians? What's your 3 meals?
Spanish food, like huge on Spanish food. We've got a few places here in New York that are legit.
Can you give us an example of a Spanish dish that you would have?
Oh, I mean, Spanish tortilla is very, you know, it's egg and potato. Can't go wrong. I had an airport that tasted better than anything I've had in the United States. I have a huge attraction to molecular gastronomy. People that can make, you know, the deconstructed or put, really what I love in food, and this isn't that untrue in music, is that when you take things that have no business being put on the same plate, that can't on paper, it's like, well, that can't work. And then you taste it and it's like, that's amazing. Yeah. Like, you know, you've got a steak with coffee grounds on the outside of it.
Right. Which is incredible.
You know, like those kinds of things. I'm very much attracted to that kind of cooking.
You know, it's interesting. A lot of great composers, and you are one of them, that I know. There's a personality trait. It's not just being bright. It's being curious and loving the moment of discovery. I think that's a very underrated thing about most writers. Like just addicted to it.
Yeah, you gotta try and go places. Like what, you know, I get bored really easily. I get bored composing. I don't like doing the same thing over and over. I really like getting to do a lot of different things. I mean, my career has been very all over the place as far as the kinds of things I've worked on, and I really enjoy being able to explore, try different things, different styles, different genres. It's like, you're absolutely right. It for me, if I had to do the exact same thing over and over, that would be tough.
What's number 3? We got the molecular. Are you gonna give me
number 3? Number 3 food.
You're gonna say hot dog or something. I know you are.
No. I have to say, I don't have that lowbrow food. Like I'm not one of those guys. I'm not. Just wine. Wine and cheese. That's all you need. Wine and cheese. There's a meal right there.
Number 9. Number 9.
Can you tell us what you've done recently and maybe something upcoming in 2022?
Sure. Let's see. Let's peck them all out here. I've got a few short films that'll be finishing up here in the fall. One I've already completed. Another one should be done by the end of the year. And a third one, actually, come to think of it, should be coming in soon. That'll be done. Those will be traveling through film festivals next year. I've got a couple of feature-length things, but they won't be starting until next year. Who knows when they'll be available. Co-writing album with a band called the Ironsides. They're located out in the Bay Area. And what we're working on is an instrumental album of cinematic psychedelic soul.
Yes, sir.
So we've been cutting it all live. It is one of the most enjoyable experiences I've had in my career. It's been a great partnership. I've been able to kind of do my thing along with them doing their thing. We've been recording out in the Bay Area, and I've been zooming in to run the sessions.
I saw that. Fantastic, man.
And everything is going quite well. The album will be released on Coal Mine Records on vinyl for all you vinyl fans. Shout out to Terry Cole at the label. We have a single that'll be available on 7-inch, I think, in earlier part of 2022, but I don't know when. The pressing plants are completely overrun and backed up, and trying to get a schedule has been difficult. And then the album proper, I'd say late summer, I think, is probably a safe time. We have a fair amount of it recorded at this point, and we'll be finishing it up through the end of the year. So stay on the lookout for that.
Listen, man, this was a thrill for me. We've talked a little bit in the past, but it was great to kind of get to know one another. And you're one of the pros doing it in New York City, the baddest place on earth. I appreciate you coming on. We're going to have a bunch of your links underneath. You're going to find Louis Robert King, a lot of stuff at the end of 2021 and into 2022. We'll look for that album in the summer. Man, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Flattered to be here. Nice to spend this time together.
Louis Robert King. What a treat to have him on today's show. He is one of these people, and they are rare, that when they walk into a room without even knowing what their talent is, you just feel like you're safe and this person's going to be great. And that assumption on Louis Robert King would be correct. As you can see in the interview, very bright, thoughtful, super talented, funny. We were so grateful to have him here today. Thanks for joining us. I'm Kyle Querec. It was Music Minded. Have a great day.
What you know is what you can prove.